LSU star and NCAA national champion Alexis Morris was recently cut from the WNBA, and she's been talking a lot. In this video, I'm going to talk about what she's been saying and how a lot of people, including WNBA players, are reacting. All right, let's get into it. Alexis Morris was cut from the Connecticut Sun's roster, a team that drafted her in the 2023 draft. They selected her as the 22nd overall pick, the 10th pick in the second round. And her first impression of training camp left her feeling a bit unprepared. Here's what she had to say about that.
I just want to share some insight from a basketball perspective of things. And if you play sports basketball, then you're going to understand what I'm talking about. I don't know if many of you know, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I am currently trying out for the Connecticut Suns to become a professional athlete. And so there's my first day of group workouts, training camp, kind of sort of type deal. This is for the colleges and institutions. In order to grow the league, you have to prep the players for what's to come. And in order to do that, you have to watch the league. You have to see the style of play, the systems that they're running, so that the adjustment and the transition for women college players to the WNBA won't be so difficult. And, and I'm not saying it's difficult for everybody, but I do think that the style of play that you play in college can either help or hurt you when you're transitioning to the next level.
So that's the video that she put out after her first experiences with the Connecticut Sun in training camp. And as you can see, she's kind of admitting that she did not feel fully prepared for the speed and for the just differentness of the WNBA from what she was used to as a college player. And so that kind of gave me a little bit of a red flag to think, oh, wow, okay, she probably won't make this roster. When she was drafted, I thought it was like a long shot for her to actually make the roster. One thing about the Connecticut Sun is that the Connecticut Sun had a lot of players on their roster. Their roster had a total of 20 players at the start of training camp. Each team has to get rosters down to at least 12. In Connecticut's case, they have a lot of veteran players, and so they're only able to have 11 players. And so that meant a lot of players were going to get cut. Rookies and veterans alike were going to get cut from this team. And as we know, Lex Luthor, aka Alexis Morris, was waived from the team. And she kind of thought about it a little bit. And then she had a lot to say on social media. Here's what she said. 30 plus, hang it up. The new generational wave. And she said, if you're knocking at 35, hang it up. And I mean wired hanger, hang it up. The vets got to know when to cut the net and pass the torch, bro. If we can't make roster spots for rookies, cut the vets and overseas me. And before I kind of talk about what my impressions are of what she said and also what other people are saying about what she said, I just want to say that, Alexis Morris is one of those people who put their feelings out on social media. So I think this is one of those things that it is totally okay to feel. And I'm sure a lot of rookies who were cut this year and previous years have probably thought a similar thing. Hey, man, just let the vets, y'all need to hang it up and let this new generation of player play and actually make a roster. So her feeling this is definitely not a problem at all. I do think she should have left this in drafts. This is one of those things where you should not be putting all of your feelings on social media, because once you put it there, once you put something on Twitter, someone's going to screenshot this and it's never going to be over. So for example, she deleted these tweets a while ago, but they're still available because people took screenshots because she put it out there. And so that's one of those things where I think this is a learning lesson for a lot of younger players and even just people in general. Don't put all of your feelings on social media. Put stuff in your drafts. If you're just trying to vent stuff, just put it in your drafts and do not send it out. Okay, please don't send it out because people will remember. So yeah, PSA for folks, do not put your entire life on social media. And then specifically to what she said, I think this is one of those things where, the WNBA is a job. And yes, Alexis Morris was drafted. There were 36 other players, or 35 other players who were drafted as well, that wanted an opportunity to actually make a roster. However, the WNBA is a tough league. The WNBA is the toughest women's basketball league in the world. And just because a player is 35 does not mean they're going to think, oh, let me get the next generation a chance. No, they want that paycheck. The WNBA is a job, just like any other job. You don't go into you don't come into a company, as a 22 or 23-year-old and say, hey, all the 40-year-olds, y'all need to give my generation a chance to run things. Let us be in charge. Let us do this X, Y, and Z, all that stuff. Like, it just doesn't work like that. Just because someone is old does not mean they're not talented. So, for example, WNBA has a significant amount of players who are over the age of 35. However, these players at the age of 35 is still balling and better than a lot of these rookies coming in. The WNBA is a job. The best player wins the role, regardless of the age. And, it's one of those things where I understand what she's feeling and I get it. But what person in their right mind would, have a job and say, oh, I'm just going to voluntarily give it up to someone younger because I want to pass the torch? Like, I don't think most people work like that. They just don't. And I think if she happened to have made the team, and let's say she was played in the league for 10 plus years and she was 35, she wouldn't be listening to someone say the same exact thing she's saying to some of the 35-year-olds. So it's one of those things where, like, you're saying this, but if you were 35, you wouldn't be packing it up. And you got folks like Diana Taurasi, who's been in the league for 18 years, who's still playing. She just scored 13 points against the LA Sparks. Of course, Phoenix lost, but still, you have players who they don't want to leave for whatever reason. Maybe they just love the money or they love just playing basketball. It doesn't matter the reason. The fact is they're still more talented than most of these rookies coming out of college. It is what it is. It's a job. And people who have the talent are not going to leave because you're the younger generation. So I think, she should have for sure saved this in drafts. I think if I was in her position, I would feel a very similar way. But in situations like this, it's good to have a circle around you of people who could be like, nah, that's not it. Don't post that. Nah, don't post that. You can vent to me, tell me all your frustrations, but don't post that on social media. I wish Alexis Morris would have had somebody like that. But at least, she did have someone in her corner, or maybe it was herself, who was like, this is not a good look. Let me delete these tweets. Of course, they're always going to be out there. And now she has a target on her back. So in case Alexis Morris, if Alexis Morris ever makes it to the WNBA and makes a roster and plays, all of these vets are going to go after her. She is going to get beat up because, you just talked about them and their livelihood, saying they shouldn't be here. So this is a tough situation that she's put herself in. She's put a target on her back. And of course she can work her way from this, but it's going to be kind of tough. And a lot of veterans had a lot to say about what Alexis Morris posted. So Kayla McBride said, respect the grind, respect those around you. It'll get you a long, long way. And she is totally right. You win more with honey, so you have to play nice in a certain way to actually get places. Sydney Colson is a player who has been cut, a player who's been a bubble player for a long time. She's currently on the Las Vegas Aces, but even with the Aces this season, I wasn't really sure that she was totally going to make this roster. She said the interesting part is that several vets who are still capable players didn't make rosters years ago because of cap space, and it was cheaper to keep rookies. And she's right. The new CBA changed that, but yes, it was the fact in the past where like rookies got preferential treatment because their pay was cheaper. So totally a fact there. She says, as someone who's been cut several times, and I mean several times, yes, she's right. It's tough and not a great feeling, but it doesn't mean that it has to be the end of your career. Grind and have a chip on your shoulder and work to get back. I think Sydney Colson is totally right. And hopefully Alexis Morris reaches out to some of these vets who like a Sydney Colson, who have been cut from the league several times and they end up coming back, and how they did it, what their mind state was, because she can try to do the same thing. Just because she was cut from the WNBA doesn't mean that she can't have a future in the WNBA. Look at players like Rebecca Gardner, who her first year, last year, she was a rookie in the WNBA. She plays for the Chicago Sky, and she's 30. She was 30, over 30, and was a rookie in the WNBA. You can make it in the WNBA if you grind and try and go overseas and make it work. You can eventually attract some GMs that are like, hey, I see you balling over here. Come to my team. This is possible for Alexis Morris. And I think it'd be helpful for her to talk to people like a Sydney Colson, like a Rebecca Gardner, who could help her on that road. We also have Devereaux Peters, who I just love her Twitter account. If you like basketball, watch her. I was a fan of hers when she played for Notre Dame. And yeah, she's awesome. Anyway, here's what she said. Next year for the draft, maybe I'll talk a little about my rookie experience. My first 4 years in the league were absolute ATLL, but I figured it out. I was blessed with vets that went out of their way to help me gain my footing. But also, a great deal was me operating in a way I wouldn't have preferred. But I think a lot of these younger players in general don't really understand how this league works. And we should be helping them too, because not everyone has players to reach out to help them along. Players like Devereaux Peters sharing their experience is going to be very helpful, because you have a lot of these players who, yes, they're stars in college, but they haven't followed the WNBA like that. They were watching the NBA. Like they weren't looking at the WNBA and seeing the trajectory of a lot of players who were in and out of the league, going overseas a couple times, coming back and then making teams and whatnot. And so I think there's just a misunderstanding about the plight of a lot of WNBA players. And I think it would be helpful for Sydney Colson, Devereaux Peters, and others to reach out and actually scratch that, to have Alexis Morris reach out to them and ask them for feedback. And just to wrap up this video, I'm not making this video to hate on Alexis Morris in any way. I was a huge fan of hers at LSU, and I still am a huge fan of hers. I do think there is a pathway to the WNBA for her. It's just not the traditional way that she wanted it to be. There were so many players, so many rookies who got cut this season, and a lot of veteran players as well. You have rookies like Kiana Traylor, Ashton Prechtel, Abby Myers, LaDasia Williams, Brittany Davis, Monica Sanano, Bree Beal, Taylor Soule, Destiny Harden, Maddie Williams, Elena Tinsky. You have players who played last year like Destiny Henderson, and you had vets who've been in the league for a couple years like Dee Dee Richards who got cut. This league is tough. There is only 144 roster spots, and it affects everybody. Players who are under the age of 35 and players who are over the age of 35. So many players are, experiencing this. But it's important, if you're trying to get in the WNBA, to practice your butt off, to play overseas if you have that opportunity, and to find every single chance you can to learn from a veteran who's been there, done that. Learn what they've done and try to kind of use what they've given you as guidance, but also just know that your road is going to be unique. And maybe it's going overseas for a couple years. Maybe it's going overseas for 1 year and then getting into the WNBA and then still going overseas to continue to develop. Maybe it's playing in Athletes Unlimited. Your path is different. No one does the same path as someone else. And I think it's important for Alexis Morris to remember that, and to know that, like, hey, you have a lot of people who really enjoyed your play at LSU. You have a lot of people who are ready to support you, and including WNBA players. Humble yourself a little bit and talk to them. Because yes, they're probably very mad. They're probably pissed off right now with what you said. But I think ultimately they're not willing to give up their spot, but they are, I think, willing to help guide you on a path that could possibly work for you. So yeah, that's the video about Alexis Morris. What do you all think? What opinions do you have? Do you think she was dead wrong for saying what she said? Do you think she should have just left that in the draft? Or do you think she's totally right? And yes, the over 35 players should leave. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And also, if she does go overseas, are you gonna follow her? And are you gonna watch whatever team she goes to? Are you gonna watch those games? This is one of those situations where there's so many rookies and early career vets who are getting cut. So overseas is going to be popping like it is every year, but like it's going to be really popping this season when we see all of these players go overseas. The question is, will their fan base, will their college fan base follow them and actually watch some of these overseas games? Yes, that means waking up really, really early to watch some of these games, but let me know. Are you willing to do that? All right, so that is the video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you're not aware, I made a video about every single WNBA team, letting you know who made the final rosters and what notable people got cut. If you want to watch that playlist, just click right over and watch it. All right, thanks, guys, for watching, and until next time, bye.